I've spent so many years looking down at my fretboard and being like, how do people even start to know all the notes on the fretboard? I mean, just look at it. It's horrible. But most importantly, I've never found an answer onto why it's important to know all the notes on your fretboard. If you also feel intimidated by all these notes and want to know why it's important, let me show you a method to instantly know all your notes. You can learn this in under 10 minutes and know all your notes forever. Most importantly, I'll also show you why it's important and how to use it. Does this sound like a good deal? If it does, let's dive into my computer and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Okay, the first thing you need to know is that there's only 12 notes. So this is the 12th fret. Anything you find beyond the 12th fret is going to repeat over here. So if I find this note, it's going to be the same as this note on the 12th fret. If I find this note, for example, fret 1, it's going to be 12th fret plus 1. So let's just pick any random note, for example, this one. I still don't know what that note is, but I'm going to find that note all across the fretboard. I'm going to know it on every single string, that note. To do that, instead of thinking of my guitar as 6 strings, I'm going to think of it as 2 strings. So 3 pairs of strings, 6 and 5, 4 and 3, 2 and 1. So this note is on string 6 and 5. To find it on 4 and 3, I'm going to jump 2 frets. So 1, 2, and then I'm going to jump this string and place it here. So this note and this note is the same note. From these pair of strings to this pair of strings, we jump 2 frets. 1, 2, jump that string, place that note there. To find this note on strings 2 and 1, I'm going to jump 3 frets. So 1, 2, 3, skip a string and place my note. All these notes are the same note. So now what? I have no more strings to go this way, right? So you probably know, if you tune your guitar regularly, that the 6th string and the 1st string share notes. So this note is going to be the same as this note. Pretty awesome, right? So now I'm on string 6 and 5 again. I want to jump to 4 and 3, so I jump 2 frets. 1, 2, skip a string, place my note over there. All these notes are the same note that we started with. And to jump to strings 2 and 1, I jump 3 frets. 1, 2, 3, skip a string, place my note over there. Now, we already discussed this is fret 12, which is the same as fret 0. So 12 plus 1 equals 0 plus 1. Now I know all these notes across all 6 strings. And of course, you can reverse engineer this. So let's just say you found this note. How do you find all notes if you start with this note? Well, we're on strings 4 and 3. To jump to 6 and 5, we jump 2 frets. 1, 2, skip a string. There we have it. To jump to strings 2 and 1, we jump 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. We place it there. This note is going to be the same as this note. We're on strings 1 and 2. To jump to 3 and 4, we jump 3 frets. 1, 2, 3, skip a string. Now we're on 3 and 4. To jump to 5 and 6, we jump 2 frets. 1, 2, skip a string, place it there, and there you have all those notes. Now this note is beyond the 12th fret, which means that we're going to count 12 plus 1, 0 plus 1, and there you have all your notes again, starting on this note. So now we need to figure out what's the name of this note. And to figure that out, we need to know our musical alphabet. Very easy, because it's the same as the normal alphabet. So we have an A, right? We've got a B, we've got a C, we've got a D, we've got an E. Same as the normal alphabet. We've got an F, and we've got a G. Now you'll see I left a space in between some of these letters, because if you count, we have 7 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 letters, for there's actually 12 notes. So what's happening? Well, in between some of these natural notes, there's other notes. So in between A and B, there's an other note, and we're going to call that A sharp. In between B and C, there's no other note. In between C and D, there's a C sharp. In between D and E, there's also another note. We're going to call that D sharp. Sharp meaning 1 fret higher from the note we're starting with. So it's a D, 1 fret higher, it's a D sharp. From E to F, there's no more notes, and from F to G, there's an F sharp. And from G all the way again to A, there's also another note called G, you guessed it, sharp. So there you have all the possible notes on your fretboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 notes. So what is this note we found all across the fretboard? Well, I started the musical alphabet in A because this string over here starts in A, and it's easy for me to remember. Instead of starting on another string which starts in E, for example, or G, I like to start my things simple in A. So if I count frets, 0, that's my open string. 1, 2, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. That's a C note, which means that all of these notes are C notes. But what happens if I find another note? How do I figure that out? So let me show you. Let's say you find this note, for example. What note is that? Okay, so this is A. 1 fret higher from that, A sharp. That's an A sharp. Now I jump 2 frets, skip a string, 3 frets, skip a string. This note is the same as this one. 2 frets, skip a string, 3 frets, skip a string, and just like that, I know all my A sharp notes. Let's go back to C because I want to show you something really cool. You know your open chords, the ones they taught to you the first day? Well, these open chords have something called a root note. And a root note is the one that defines the name of the chord. So for example, a C chord has a root note right here, right? That's a C note. We already discussed this, right? A sharp, B, C. Not only does it have one root note, some of them have 2 root notes. Check this out. That's a C, that's a C2, this is a C, this is another C. So all the open chords you already know have that root note in them. For example, A has a root note here. That's an A note, defines the name of the chord. This is also an A note. Remember, 2 frets, jump string. Okay, so in a D, this is a root note, and that's a root note. Remember, jump 3 frets, jump string. E has 3 root notes. And G also has 3 root notes. In an E, this is an E note, that's an E note, and that's an E note. In a G, this is a G note, that's a G note, and this is a G note. So what can we do with this now? Imagine I get this root note and look for a chord shape, not a chord, a chord shape that has that root note included in that shape. So what shapes have a root note on the 5th string? A C. Okay, so I'm going to get this C and just place it here. See what happens. I'm just going to copy this little diagram over here. Okay, so we can all agree that's a C chord with its 2 root notes. Those are C notes. But what other chord shape of the chords you already know has a root note on the 5th string? Oh, wait, that A shape. Does that mean that if I move this chord shape 3 frets higher, 1, 2, 3, if I play this over here, is this going to become a C chord? It is. This little shape, if you move all the notes together, 1, 2, 3 frets, it's going to become a C chord. Same as this note became another note, an A note became a C note, an A chord shape is going to become a C chord right here. Wow. So let's keep moving forward. So for example, let's get this note. What chord shapes have a root note on the 6th string? We've got, let me see, 2 of them, E and G. Okay, let's start with the G. If I copy this G over here, would this G moved up all the way here create a C chord? Yes, sir. Look at that G shape, same shape as this one, moved all the way up to find a C chord. G shape, C chord. This note, we move all the way up to C, and because one note becomes another note, one chord shape is going to become another chord. But we've got another one. We've got E right here. So I'm going to copy this little diagram of E over here, and I'm going to find myself another way to play a C chord. Wow, first I used a C shape, then I used an A shape, then I used the G shape, and now I'm using an E shape. But what about this note? Well, this note has its root note on the 4th string, same as D. So I can copy that D chord shape, and this would be another way to play a C chord. Using a D shape, moved across the fretboard to find a C chord. Now, if you realize, what is the sequence we followed? First, we used a C shape. Then we used an A shape. This is starting to make sense. Then we used the G shape over here. Then we used an E shape. Whoa, 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 whoa. We're getting somewhere. And then finally, we used that D shape. What does that spell? Caged. This is what caged is all about. When you find any note across the fretboard and use the bouncing method to find the rest of the notes on all 6 strings, you can then use your chord shapes that spell caged to play that chord all across the fretboard. Not only that, but you can also find your triads, and that is something I teach inside of the Ultimate Guitarist Chord Book. Let me show you inside. So here you have it, the Ultimate Guitarist Chord Book. Let me see if I can find that page. Well, let me show you everything included. So this book is for everyone, starts right in the beginning, how to read chord charts, right? And the concept of chords versus shapes, what we were talking about. Okay, and then we've got your basic chord shapes, all those colors, see those red notes? Okay, so then how to transform your shapes, how to fret them cleanly, how to change through chord shapes with tips, with videos, and then we've got finger stretching exercises. What else do we have? How to change those chords, you already know, into other beautiful sounding chords just by moving a couple notes. What else do we have over here? Easy chord progressions you can play right away. If you're struggling to change through chords, these things sound amazing. We also have bar chords, how they work, how to make them sound clean, how they're laid out across the fretboard, how to change to them fast, sharps and flats, what we were talking about, right? Easy bar chord checklist. What else do we have here? We have cage, how it's laid out, how it works, how chords move across the fretboard, and how to identify cage, how to use it. Okay, what else do we have? Triads. See those colors? Well, if you know your colors, you already know your triads, which is really cool. And then using cage, you can find any triad across the fretboard. We've got chords theory. So how to create chords such as majors, minors, sus chords, 5 chords, 7 chords, major 7, 6, augmented, diminished, add chords. All chords are here included. Look at those colors. Okay, so what else do we have here? Let's see. Chord voices by genres. What common genres of music use to get their sound? We also have chord progression theory, the circle of fifths and how it works, how to use it, how to create your own chord progressions. We've got minor chord progressions. Let's see what else we've got. We also have a chord library, how to fret your chords, open chords, bar chords, triads. All this is included inside of the Ultimate Guitarist Chord Book. Go and check it out. I promise it'll change your life.